Tourism Minister unveiling major plans for the country's #1 industry. That story coming up in the Bahamas tonight.
Coming up in the Bahamas tonight, the Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources calling for stiffer penalties for those who break the Fisheries Act. We've got the details, so stay tuned.
And a new gambling addiction program is up and running. The Bahamas tonight, the National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Everyday.
With Chinese investment on the rise in the country, the construction of a stadium, a port facility in North Abaco, Bahamar, and the sale of the British Colonial Hilton Hotel, concerns have now been raised about how this increased presence will affect the authenticity of the tourism product.
But C.S. Gadaway tells us that it's not a concern that the minister shares. In fact, he says he welcomes the interest of Chinese investors.
Following last week's sale of the British Colonial Hilton to China Construction, Tourism Minister Obi Wilshcombe says he welcomes the increased interest that Chinese investors are having in the Bahamas, as it bodes well for the overall tourism product.
We have seen the British come, the Canadians come, the Americans come, the Chinese are now here. They're all a part of the makeup that we have to cause our economy to grow. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, particularly as you look at a policy that has legs and you look at where the world is headed in terms of the WTO, in terms of the growth of economies. The IMF is reporting that China continues to be a country whose economy is growing, and even in a bad year they're talking about 7.3 or 7.4%. They're not going to impact our country beyond our policies and our legislation.
In fact, Wilshcombe believes it should inspire Bahamans to invest in the downtown area. The tourism minister says it will be up to the government to put the necessary legislation in place that would encourage Bahamans, particularly those who are already located in the area, to do so.
They should be investing more downtown. So let's put together a legislative package with some incentives that will cause them to want to invest, because what you never want to happen is for someone to come in your country and be the dominant force. They should be guests in your country and be a part of the growth of the economy. So with Bay Street, the requirement is bringing Bay Street alive again. Bay Street is just too dead. Nothing's happening on Bay Street. But yet every day we have 3-4 cruise ships coming in that's bringing thousands of visitors, almost 3 to 4 million visitors a year coming into Bay Street.
The tourism minister says attracting more visitors to our shores requires more restaurants, local entertainment, and name brand shopping. He pointed out the fact that despite years of being a well-known brand, Bay Street urgently needs a more attractive and modern makeover. Minister Wilshcombe says with an ever-increasing population in need of jobs, this is one way the government can boost the economy, create more jobs, and give downtown Nassau a much-needed facelift. Sia Scatterly, ZNS Network News.
Well, Progressive Liberal Party Chairman Bradley Roberts is not letting up on his party's opponents following recent comments made by 2 Free National Movement members questioning recent Chinese investment. Chairman Roberts says comments attributed to both Free National Movement Member of Parliament for East Grand Bahama Peter Turnquest and Party Chairman Darren Cash are hypocritical, misleading, and, quote, downright disgraceful, given what he says is the truth of the diplomacy and the foreign and investment policies of the Free National Movement relative to the People's Republic of China. In a statement issued today, Chairman Roberts said political leaders and aspiring leaders must be able to speak with reason and sincerity to national issues and not to seek to promote ignorance, hypocrisy, and hysteria as smokescreens to hide the truth.
Well, stiffer penalties for those in breach of the Fisheries Act are now awaiting cabinet approval. That coming from the Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, the Alfred Gray, who says he believes the penalties will go a long way in deterring poachers who continue to rape our waters of its natural resources. Janae Noel Ferguson is on the story.
we're going to tighten up the laws to ensure that the Bahamian people benefit from what's in the Bahamas.
A strong stance taken by Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources V. Alfred Gray, who believes that poaching in our waters have gone on long enough. And despite agreements with the government of the Dominican Republic, Minister Gray says he's still not satisfied that the Dominicans are doing what they can to end this assault on our waters. The Bahamas, he maintains, cannot stand by and allow this to continue, and he hopes new fines can be implemented soon.
Presently is $50,000 for the captains as a fine. We have gotten approval to increase it fivefold to $250,000 fine for the captain, and it used to be $5,000 per crew. We have gotten approval to increase it to $25,000 per crew member on the vessels which we might arrest.
And the new policy won't stop there. Minister Gray says government anticipates ending the common practice of hiring Bahamian foreign work crews only to have them participating in fishing as well.
As soon as these vessels leave the port, the captains and the engineers go overboard and dive as if they were fishermen. That's not going to be allowed to happen. Quite frankly, I'm seeking Cabinet's approval formally. We've discussed it, and I am asking the government to formally approve for announcement that there will be no nationals other than Bahamians working on Bahamian vessels.
And just last week, a group of Dominican poachers were charged in the magistrate's court for breaching the Fisheries Act. 2 of them were granted bail after showing evidence that they were married to Bahamian women.
Married to Bahamian don't give you citizenship. When you get it, come, we'll talk to you. But until you get citizenship, we ain't talking to you, because we are not going to allow this abuse.
And with the new immigration policy coming into being on November 1st, Minister Gray says he hopes that the 2 agencies can work together to crack down on illegal migration.
Because we are not going to give you permit for engineers or boat captains unless you can show us, evidence sublime. And that's going to be impossible, I think, for them to show us in advance that that's what's going to happen.
Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
Well, those 4 Dominicans arraigned earlier on illegal fishing charges just mentioned in Janae's story were each fined $1,000 or 3 months in prison today after pleading guilty before Magistrate Andrew Forbes. The Dominicans will be turned over to immigration officials after they pay their fine or their prison time ends. Now, all of the Dominican nationals are married to Bahamians. However, immigration officials will have the final say on their spousal permit applications.
In other news, a new gambling addiction program is up and running thanks to founder of the Family People Helping People project, Dr. David Allen. Dr. Allen moved to create the safety net for those who may fall victim to compulsive gambling following the recent passage of the gaming bill in Parliament, which makes way for Bahamians to gamble legally. And with that being the case, Dr. Allen says he believes the program is going to be crucial as 10 to 20% of gamblers develop an addiction. He says there is no shame in seeking help, and he's encouraging the public to take advantage of the program.
Not every gambler is a compulsive gambler. Some people can gamble and just get away with it. Some people can drink alcohol and do quite well. But we're talking about the compulsive gambler who is an addict. That's how we define compulsive. They must gamble, and they will gamble even though they have nothing, and even though there are serious consequences, like losing everything, they would still go and borrow money to spend it on gambling. It means they can't help themselves. It's an illness. It's a disease, and it has to be treated.
The program, which will be strictly confidential, will be headed by former cocaine addict Chappelle and gambling addiction therapist Prescola Williamson. And sessions will be held Tuesdays and Thursdays at its office on Collins Avenue and 7th Terrace. Chappelle says addictions of all kinds have far-reaching effects and does not only impact addicts. Williamson added that addiction to gambling is pretty common among women.
When you're dealing with addiction, people become, their sense of communication, all they can do is scream or lash out because their body at the same time is screaming for the drug. And those patterns of communication, they trickle down into the whole family.
Female gamblers, they are closed, they are secret, and that's why it affects the family the most. So I hope that in starting this program, we would be able to reach most of the female gamblers here in the Bahamas, and also the youth.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Lux Men's Warehouse.